Morning. It is almost 10 UTC here on Monday, the 14th of October. So, looking over at the economic calendar, we don't have a whole lot going on early week. We have some stuff coming in Thursday. I'm expecting quite a bit of volatility that day. Lots of data, specifically the Eurozone and the US. The big things to watch there: initial jobless claims, core retail sales, especially going into Q4. It's going to be a big one. Fed manufacturing across the board, pretty interesting day. I think a lot of this stuff coming out an hour before the New York Open also would indicate pretty big pre-market volatility that day. Other than that, it's a pretty slow week, so not bad. I mean, can't a lot less external factors potentially influencing price. So, looking at the long short specifically for Bitcoin, awesome across the board. We saw the big reversal starting to come in 4 days ago, back on like Friday. Uh, Major turn of events, big increases in shorts. Shorts have now come in so powerful. We're actually more short than long on the long short account. So, this is great. This is awesome. This is what we want to continue to see for upside continuation. We are probably getting to a point where we want some localized pullback, but for the time being, it still looks relatively good. Looking at the funding rates as well, funding rates are very, very bearish. Obviously, that's going to be an influence on market makers and liquidity providers. Massive numbers coming in from OKX, DYDX, and stuff like that. So well over 0.01. Lots of influence there to potentially push price down just a little bit. There's some good retests of levels that we would like to see, especially since we had such an aggressive move up. But we will watch that as we go on into the week, as the priority has definitely looked more upside in the last few days. Commitment of traders report as well, just showing what the CME is doing. The asset managers are adding again, longs are adding again across the board for dealers. So this is always a good picture to paint effectively. Leverage funds closing longs, obviously, and still hedging short aggressively. Other reportables massively increased in the last couple of weeks, so just keep an eye on that as well. So across the board, looking good from the CME side. Looking at the liquidity for and what we've actually done here for Bitcoin. So we've actually had a really nice pop of the high. We talked about the gain at 64K to push higher. We did. We're now grabbing that really high leverage liquidity. We're getting to a point where, yes, it's a little bit thin, but it's still in place. We still have quite a bit of liquidity taking us higher potentially. If we want to see some localized failures, potentially going back to retest levels, I think there's a good argument that if we do start seeing some breakdowns back under 64K, we would want to revisit some of these late pockets. I really don't want to go lower than what we've done. I think sub 60K, getting into like 58, what was that, 59K effectively. That was a really deep drive. There is still some long liquidity there, absolutely. But as long as we're staying above that, I'm happy. Watch for this localized breakdown at 64. Until then, you've got upside priority. You're regaining levels. So the first failure, like I said, if you start losing 64K, you are looking for that localized failure to bring you back down to at least test local structure, more likely a deeper retest of the previous structure. So from there, I would expect, if as long as we hold the lows, we're actually looking for some upside continuation. It looked really, really bad going into the end of the week. Last week, we've now kind of reversed that idea, especially with the closes. The high time frame closes looking strong. So for the time being, it's looking very, very strong and uppish, especially from what we were doing, with the bottom side reversals on the 10th, and then by the 11th, we were actually doing pretty much a V bottom recovery off of that low. So overall, positive, looking strong actually going into Monday. Just watch for that localized reversal potentially if we get it, and you're still looking for a potential continuation off of those lows. So going into trading light. Let's see here. Right. So trading light, this is looking pretty good. Open interest actually coming off as we're seeing shorts trying to jump in. Shorts are actually getting liquidated pretty hard in the last couple of days. Overall, good, right? We want to see that kind of continuation. Like I said, open interest coming off. As far as resting orders above us, not a whole lot. It's pretty calm in all reality. There's not anything other than like some local stuff, which I think will try to influence some downside price action, only coming in the current 4 hour. So like I said, if we have that localized 64K failure, we would want to see a potential move back down to retest structure. But for the time being, it's pretty much clear skies. Looking at the footprint as well, the aggressiveness is definitely in the longs favor. Massive green deltas across the board with good in position longs. Like I said, if we do start flipping 64K, we'll put especially since we have like, 4,000 in positive delta, 6.7 in positive delta. A lot of this being at the lows of structure. I'd say, like I said, the first 64K loss would be the first retest to come back lower, with the potential to drive us all the way back down to retest stuff to punish the longs that were coming in late last week and over the weekend. But for right now, it looks strong. It looks aggressive. Watch for that flip if we get a local reversal. Just keep an eye on that. Until then, we get some upside. We still have upside continuation. And then finally, going into trading view, looking at the liquidity first, that high leverage long liquidity, which we saw on the other chart there, this is definitely still in place. This is where I'd expect us to get into these, 100x, 50x liquidations, bring us back down to retest some of these lows at 61K. Lots of good support between here and there. So if we do have some wicks, we want to see some like aggressive wicks down with some really good buybacks, especially 4-hour plus. There's a liquidity dead zone as well at 59K. So this is awesome. This is where we'd want to see a major price reversal. If we do come all the way down sub 60K again, we want to see a major reversal. Getting below that low, very high probability in my mind. If we lose 59K again, we are going back towards 54K. So keep an eye on that. Lose 59, go to 54. But for the time being, you've got older upside long liquidity as well. You've got high leverage liquidity all the way up at 66K. So you've still got direction. You've regained that kind of critical 64. If we do start to see that failure, it would start breaking things. But for the time being, it looks nice. Looking over at the general TA for this zone, this is kind of my general idea here. If we do have a move down, we've got quite a bit of support at Q3 and Q4. Q3 being like the giga level, 62.8K. Keep an eye on that. I think that's just the key to holding the entire zone, just because we have, current weekly, previous weekly opens, quarterly levels, it's all in the same spot. So we want to see that kind of hold. If we get a wick through it and then a regain, that's fine, but we don't want to see losses. It would force us to go back towards sub 60K potentially. So for the time being, like I said, you're regaining levels, which is good and strong. The loss that first occurs would be here, losing that 64K zone to come back down to test some of these quarterly levels. But until that happens, you're looking at pretty, bullish price action, short stepping in. So that's overall bullish. Like I said, watch for that reversal. I'll say it again. I've said it like a dozen times now, but we have good support zones. We had really strong regains into this zone over the weekend and then early Monday, retesting things bullishly. So looks aggressively strong. Watch for potential lower time frame reversals. You've got some priority up right now, which is good. You can lose that. Any new low after 59K, you're likely looking at the downside. But for the time being, watch above for a potential regain of this high. There's a lot of older long liquidity above this stuff that could easily get you back towards 69K. And the reality is, at the highs, there's 20 billion plus in shorts that would start to get liquidated if we had to move up. If we come back towards 69K, it's either a make or break it. Either we break it and we go all the way up to new all-time highs, mid to high 70K on the first drive, at least, or we're probably done with the upside attempts and we have to come to a really bad consolidation. But that's a much higher time frame. And for right now, I'm pretty happy with the price action. Looks good. And yeah, that's it. Catch you later.